Oh, hey, let's talk about building generative UIs with generative AI, part 3. In the first part, we talked about what goes into the LLM. Then we talked about, in the next video, the processing that the LLM does. For this third part, let's talk about what goes out of the LLM. LLMs are trained on massive amounts of text and code and can generate text and code and return that to us. LLMs actually fall under both the categories of generative AI as well as discriminative AI. Scroll back a couple of videos and I have an explainer describing the difference between discriminative and generative AI. But just know that for the sake of building a generative UI, our LLM gives us the ability to not only process natural language, but also can generate more natural language. It can generate text. And you've seen this in action if you've ever used an agent like ChatGPT or Gemini or any chatbot for that matter. That's the LLM, after it's done its processing, giving you a chunk of information in the form of a text string or a block of code to display for the user to see. So we're basically matching energies here. So since our LLM is able to accept natural language as an input and can also generate and output natural language and code to the user, can't we just have the LLM handle everything for us from beginning to end? Essentially, yeah, we could. Let's say your user comes to your site, right? And let's say you have a site similar to Google search. A user comes to your site and they're looking for a flight from Atlanta to New York. That's their search query. On the fly, your LLM could accept that natural language, process it, and infer that the user's intent is to buy flight tickets. And at runtime, your LLM could build the code needed to display a UI to your user that allows them to buy those flight tickets. Now, AI, especially generative AI, is still very much at early stages of maturity. And I think we've all seen examples of where AI works really well and examples of where it doesn't work so well. Personally, I don't feel comfortable just handing off the reins to AI completely, especially in a production-ready app. Not only is the AI itself, it can hallucinate, it can have issues. If it's based off of a faulty model, it can introduce security vulnerabilities, which can be very detrimental. It can introduce biases that weren't previously there. And there's a very high risk for mistakes. So there has to be a way to do this that allows us as engineers to still have a little bit more control. What we just described is called dynamic UI generation. The analogy that I keep in the back of my head is if you're going to a restaurant, right? Let's say that one restaurant has a chef who has traveled a good bit and has studied under multiple people, but just is super creative, very creative and eccentric personality. And I step into this person's restaurant and there's no menu. I just come in and I say, hey, I'm in the mood for something festive. And then it's up to that chef to interpret what I've said and turn it into a platter that makes sense. There are a number of different ways that this chef can go, and I don't know enough about this chef, and this chef does not know enough about me to be able to make a good determination of exactly what I want. It may be exactly what I want, and may be something that I never could have imagined that a meal could be this good, but also it could be something that is worse than I've ever imagined in my life. But don't despair, we have another option. We can use what's called restrictive UI generation. And essentially this is like giving the chef a menu to work from. And that way we have control, we as engineers and designers have control over the cuisine style, the ingredients that go into it. Really, we're talking about components. So we pre-register components with our LLM, and we tell our LLM, these are the components that you can choose from. When you're responding to the user, either respond through text or markdown, or respond with a registered component. In the fourth part, we're going to talk about how to register those components with your LLM.